Hey, you guys, what's up? What's up? Tracy Jackson here. Thank you for hopping on this video. I'm cutting this just as a short response to a post that I made in a nursing group. All right, so it's been a while since I made a video, so I'm back, but I'm talking about a little bit of a different topic. For those of you that don't know me though, my name is Tracy Jackson. I am a nurse and I'm also a tax consultant. Those of you who are on my channel may know me for trading Forex and teaching investing. And I still do that, but I also am focusing on helping individuals, especially health individuals and people with small businesses to manage with their tax situations. Okay, so that's what this video is going to be about. But I made a post in an LPN group, and this is really just an easier way to respond to a question or I guess a comment, and they wanted more information. There was about 300 people and they were like, I want more information, but it was really just something that I wanted to mention about one of the changes in the tax code that changed for this year. Okay, that's all. So I'm just going to go over the basics of that change and how it will affect nurses. Okay, before I go on, I will say that this change doesn't just affect nurses, it affects all employees. Okay, employees that would normally write off expenses that were job related. So let's just talk about, and I didn't do a whole slide on that, but for those of you that don't know, there is something called the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act that was put into place for this year. And there were lots of changes made overall to the tax code. And so I'm just going to speak to one of them, but there are many of them. Okay, so you would want to speak with your tax professional if you already have one, about your specific situation. And just so you know, I am not giving you specific tax advice. I am just simply giving general information here, and then you all can take that as you want it. So I wanted to let nurses know about the change in being able to write off employee related expenses. Okay, so again, this applies to all employees, but specifically for nurses, I wanted to make sure they were aware. So you used to be able to write off or actually itemize your employee expenses. So there's lots of things that you can itemize on a Schedule A. You can write off like mortgage interest, your fees for tax preparation. You could write off mileage and any educational expenses related to work, or you could also write off charitable contributions and those types of things. So that's part of the Schedule A. There's one part on the Schedule A that they did away with, and that is your ability to write off employee related expenses. And I want to specify that because there was someone in the group who said, "Oh, well, I just did my taxes and I still wrote off my scrubs, so nothing changed. You can still write off the same things." Well, that's why I wanted to make this video, because clearly, especially the ones who are doing their taxes themselves, they have no clue that they have no clue that this Tax Cuts and Jobs Act is now in place, and it is in place until the year 2025, I believe. All right, so go read up on that. I'll show you guys a few links in a minute here where you can read, but it is valid and true. Okay, so itemized versus standard means either you can itemize. All right, so that's what I put here. You can either itemize or you can select the standard deduction. So there are changes in the standard deductions as well. If you haven't heard, they have doubled. And that just means that that is an amount that comes off of your adjusted gross income to lower your taxable income, pretty much. Okay, so of course it's recommended to go with the highest amount so you can benefit the most. So if your itemized deductions, okay, meaning all those things, sorry about that, meaning all of the things that I mentioned before, if all those together add up to more than the standard deduction, all right, then you would want to itemize. Okay, and if your standard deduction ends up being more, then you would want to take that. All right, so let's say your standard deduction was 18,000 and your itemized was 12,000, then of course you would want to just use the standard deduction. So the bigger the better. Okay, All right, and this is just showing you where it would be on the 1040. So I'm not going to stay here long. Let's move forward. So the Schedule A, this is showing you. So I'm just showing you the proof here. This was the Schedule A where you would itemize on the 2017. It is right here. So you see job expenses and certain miscellaneous deductions. All right, and then it shows you employee expenses, job travel, union dues. This is where I used to put all my stuff. Okay, so my uniforms, my scrubs, blah blah blah. All right, it is no longer there. So you can see this is the new Schedule A, and it's no longer there. So for those of you saying that you already wrote off your things, I don't know where you put them, but all right, so that's showing you, and you can find those on IRS.gov website. So what do nurses normally deduct on a Schedule A, or what could you have normally deducted? So mileage, meals, scrubs or uniforms, nursing shoes, travel expenses. Let's say you are I used to be a home health nurse, so my company actually used to reimburse me, you know, a certain number of cents per mile for my travel in between patients. And you could write off the difference between that. I think it was like 38 cents or something like that. But the allowable you know, amount per mileage was higher than that. So you could write off the difference. So if it was like, you know, 53.5 cents or whatever, you can write off the difference between what your employer reimbursed you and what you are allowed to deduct. Okay, so that's really no longer, unless you have a business. Okay, then you write off business miles. All right, so travel expenses, relocating for work, no longer. You used to be able to do that if it was more over 50 miles. And journal subscriptions, you know, you guys can see the list here. So this is just things that you would have normally written off. Nursing supplies, if you were, you know, asked to buy things for patients as you were in between patients or stuff like that, and your job did not reimburse them, then you can write those things off. So all of those things were write-offable, if that's a word. If that's a word. All right, so home office. Let's say you are a nurse and you go home and you do your paperwork there, and you know, you copy and print off copies or anything like that. If you use your office space for your job, or let's say you're a consultant and you do work from home, you know, and you are, you know, run your consulting business for, let's say, a health insurance company from home, you could write off your office expenses. Okay, makes sense, right? Nursing conferences, travel, you could write off parking, tolls, meals. All right, the reason why I have a no symbol in the middle is because these are no longer. Okay, I want to make that clear. That's the whole point of me doing this video. Okay, I want to make it clear. Sorry about that. I want to make it clear that these are no longer. So these were expenses that you could write off, that were if your employer did not reimburse them. Okay, so I want to show you something really quick here. All right, so on this site, the H&R Block site, this is just a clip about that change. And just really quickly, I just want to show you proof that it says prior to 2018, employees were allowed to claim deductions for their unreimbursed business expenses as itemized deductions on their tax return. This allowed employees to reduce their tax liability. Okay, so I'm not going to read the whole thing, but down here you can see the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act not only eliminated this deduction for employee business expenses, but also eliminated the miscellaneous itemized deductions with the 2% floor. So just proof. I mean, it's out there. It's nothing that I made up. All right, didn't pull this out of thin air. All right, so the next part is, you guys will find this a little interesting. So hopefully my nurses that are watching, this will make a lot of sense for you all. So I took this the nursing direction. I'm gonna call it a nurse care plan, a nurse tax care plan. So you guys know, as nurses, we assess, we do our nursing diagnosis, and we do our intervention and our treatment. So that's the way I approached it in this case. All right, so our nursing quote unquote tax diagnosis. All right, my nurses will get this. If anybody else is watching, they may not get it, but this is my nursing diagnosis. Possible higher tax liability. all right, related to Tax Cuts and Jobs Act as evidenced by removal of the job-related tax deduction. So pretty much that means that because these deductions have been eliminated, your tax liability could possibly change or be a little higher. Or you may not be affected because what's going to happen is most people will just go ahead and use the standard deduction. Make sense? So if your itemized deductions are now much lower, then you just go ahead and use the standard deduction. That's it. So it'll make it simple. Down here, I've written the benefit is that you'll no longer have to keep track of all those receipts. So because it will no longer be valid, you won't need those receipts because you're probably going to end up using a standard deduction. All right, so the tax or the nursing intervention, this is our intervention, and I'll say it again, talk to your tax professional to see what is the best course of action based on your personal tax situation. So people keep asking me for the information, but really to assess exactly what you can legally write off, you need to have someone evaluate your job, your career, what you do, what expenses you have, and your total situation, okay, to see whether it's going to be best for you to itemize or not itemize. All right. The treatment would be, here's just one suggestion. You could talk to your employer about possibly reimbursing you for the job related expenses that you are not being reimbursed for. Now that's up to them, but there are some states that are forced by law to reimburse employees for job related expenses. You would just need to look up in your state what are the rules for that, okay? But hopefully if they are being enforced to reimburse you, then they're already reimbursing you, so it won't make a difference anyway, okay? So here's one of my favorite interventions, to own a home business. All right, so let's say that your tax liability is now going to increase a bit because you can no longer write off $30,000. You know, some people may write off a lot due to travel and things like that. So if you were writing off like 30 something thousand or more than that, and that was helping to lower excuse me, if that was helping to lower your tax liability and you no longer have that, then it might be a good idea to look into having your own business legitimately. All right, so let me go to the next slide. This is just quickly an example of some deductions if you had a business. They are actually pretty similar to some of the things you were probably writing off as an employee. For example, meals, supplies, travel, office expenses, you know, if there was any advertising with your business, business insurance, licenses, all of that would be able to write off. Okay, so pretty much just kind of shifting from being able to write off things as an employee to a business owner could really help you. So I'm going to repeat this again. Again, this is for educational purposes only and should not be considered tax advice, more so just information. Discuss your situation with your CPA or tax professional. All right, if you don't have one and you want to reach out to me, feel free to go to jewelfinancialsolutions.com and you can get on my calendar to talk about your tax situation. All right. Feel free to do that. Now, for those of you who don't have a business and are looking for a business solution, I have been a nurse for 12 years and I have always had a business, and it has always helped me to improve my tax situation, not allow me to not have to pay as much in taxes. So if you are looking for something, feel free to reach out to me for that too. You can comment below. Make sure you comment below. I'm probably going to put this on my YouTube channel as well, so go ahead and subscribe to my channel for my future videos and updates. Comment if you have any questions, or if you're watching this on Facebook, go ahead and inbox me if you want to see what options that you might have to further maximize your situation with your taxes, okay, through owning a business, a legitimate business. I can show you that part as well. All right, so I didn't put my number up here, but you guys just go ahead and inbox me, and I look forward to chatting with you. Hopefully you guys found this helpful. This is free information. It's out there on the internet. I didn't show you the IRS site, but you can definitely go out there and Google the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. And there are many, many, many more changes than just this one employee kind of change thing. But I know that people did not know it, and actually lots of people don't even know that the changes even exist. So look forward to talking with you. Thank you for watching this video, and I will see you guys soon. Bye-bye.